Oh, it is. What episode are we on?
21.
21 episodes.
Let's get right to it. What have you been playing for Roddy lately? Because I've been playing nothing.
Oh, nothing.
Summer's busy. On weekends I'm not home. Right after FunCon, I was like, yeah, build these fun decks, fix new Nexus. I haven't done any of it. It's just been kind of work and no play. So what you've been doing, which is like a flip because you have 2 kids, you have your job, and you've been playing more Raw Deal than ever.
Yeah,
so like,
it's a little bit slow work right now, so there's not too much going on with that. So I have a little bit of downtime to build decks on Lackey if there are any phone calls and play some games. So as soon as we got back from FunCon, I ended up building the best Backlash of the world, the CM Punk remake, and Team Hell No, who just reunited on SmackDown recently. So I was like, I'm gonna build them. But I had them printed out, ready to go anyways. Because I was like, after I take apart Devil's Favorite Demon, I'm just gonna build another Kane deck. So I played both of those decks today. They both did alright against Cam. I like Best Wrestler in the World. I built him Bash because he has that mixed martial arts specialist. So you get 4 fortitude in the pre-match phase. So right away you get Kamish, Feudal Man.
Oh, those bash punches.
Yeah, bash punches. So that's kind of nasty to start with 4 fortitude instead of 3. So I was a little iffy because I don't really like bash decks. But starting with that 4 fortitude, so good.
Are you running it with, like, for the love of the game, get like 6?
No, I don't take it that far. I do run an overrated superstar, so if I get the 5th fortitude, I'll go for it. But no, and then I actually run them. Hold on, it's not time to show. Is that the one? No, waiting. The one that's 5 hand size you play before the first.
Oh, it just got a revision recently. I can't remember what it's
biding my
called.
time, or I forget what it is.
It's where you have printed 5 card or less hand size if you have 5 or less cards in hand.
I think it's buying myself some time.
Yeah, because you put it in play, you draw 2, their ability's blank, and then they skip their draw segment, so they can they get their turn, but they don't get to draw.
That's right,
which is like, it's like playing underrated almost.
Yeah, it's like a 3-card swing, so I don't mind it, and they can't respond to it, I believe, so because you just put it in play. So yeah, that was good. I played Drew McIntyre, who I'll probably play at the next tournament. I played him against Colin, fixed him up a bit against his Natalia. Bunch of 2 chain decks, smashing each other's faces. What else did I got on Lackey? I figured starting with Rebel would be easier because there's so many effects, like abilities and pre-match cards that do things. So I was like, you know what, if I start with Rebel, I know it's only a 3 to 6 card pre-match phase, so it'll be easier to do, less to resolve. Don't have to worry about a Backstage Area deck or anything, it's just super simple. So I did that. I just copied a deck that I had built from many moons ago, and huge shout out to Mitch, who played me in my first game, kind of walked me through, here's how you load your deck, here's how you draw 9 cards for your opening hand size, and here's how you do this effect, here's how you do this effect. So that was lots of fun. And then today I played Josh a couple times, and again he showed me a few new shortcuts. So my goal is really to pick up like 1 new shortcut each game, so that as I go, at least I pick something up to kind of speed up the process, because there's nothing worse than they play a card and they're like, I played this card. I'm like, I know, I'm trying to find my Backlash deck to read what there's a reversal there, and I'm not super familiar with Rebel, and it's like trying to like resolve this. And with Sabu, when you play an Assault with the Ring Psychology, you get to pick up a random hold or throw, and your opponent plays Ruckus at ringside, so I have to pick out the holds and throws from the ringside pile, set them into like the miscellaneous stack on Lackey, and then you put 2 random in your hand. It's like, oh, it's so tedious for me to do, but I'm sure they're just like click, click, done, done. I was like, oh, okay.
Well, with that, couldn't you also like just pick random in your ringside pile, and if it's not one of the 2, you just continue on until you pull them?
Probably somehow.
That's for the next shortcut of the game.
Yeah, so I think those are all the games I played and the 2 new decks I built. And then I kind of tweaked everything that I had when we got back from Gen Con. I don't know where.
Oh, back from FunCon.
Back from FunCon,
no,
yeah, not Gen Con.
Gen Con's a few weeks away yet.
Yeah, so that's really it for me. You haven't played a single game?
Not a single game. I haven't even got my Lackey tournament game in. Lackey's not working on my iPad properly.
No.
The laptop, I can't get it to work properly. I'm like, just, Raphael sucks. I cut out Xavier Woods because I want to build a gimmicky deck with just ups and downs, which I think would be fun. and I was working on The Second Coming. I did a big trade in Illinois for blank maneuvers. No, still haven't. I don't really have a lot.
Summer is really a slower time for Raw Deal in general. Like, we're trying to book our tournament and like.
Okay, two family barbecues.
Yeah, at least 2 family barbecues, like, yeah, so.
So were you undefeated then? In Raw Deal since FunCon?
No, I lost to Josh today a couple times. My Sabu deck like really relies on Hardcore Hell, and I haven't modified it at all since the Revolution pay-per-view cards came out, so when it's blank, the deck's a lot weaker.
Oh.
Yeah. Around the web?
Yeah, let's do it around the web. Sorry, I'm really tired. It's a rough day at work. So we've hit 1,000 audio downloads. So thanks to everyone. I put social media stuff out there, but we have downloads for the audio podcast. So if you're watching this on YouTube, we're available on iTunes, Stitcher, and wherever else your podcasts are found. We have people from 16 different countries supporting us. Yeah. Do I have a list in front of me? Of course not, because why would I be prepared?
Well, we know there's the US.
Yeah, I'll bring it up.
We know there's Singapore.
There is a lot more in Canada than I expected.
Oh yeah?
Like, it's not just us downloading our own show or like our friends.
Hey Mom, can you download our episode to spike the rating?
Oh no, don't say the M word, please. No. I'm not going there. But yeah, 1,000. I figure with our YouTube views, we're, what was it, about 15 or 1,600 total for the show?
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you to everybody who seeks us out, who follows the game, who still plays, and who's getting back into the game.
I was joking that the episode that Elliot was on, where he did the intro, he watched that probably a dozen times at home the other day, so our numbers might be a little skewed because of that.
We had downloads from Guatemala, we had a good amount from Japan, England.
Yeah.
It's crazy to see. The reach this game still has, but that just goes to show the type of reach wrestling has. And wrestling's never been more popular.
You failing at finding?
I know. It's like we're playing Managed by William Regal. I'm failing to find. Actually, if you go here, click my name on your phone.
Was it images that you said?
You scroll up.
Oh,
that's it there. Here, you can read them out. Here, that's the bigger list over to the right.
All right. We have United States, Canada, France. Interesting. Japan, Chile, Spain, United Kingdom, Thailand, Russia, Australia. And at the bottom here, Somalia, China, Singapore, Sweden, Hungary, and Guatemala. Interesting.
Yeah, so
quite the list.
Thank you to everyone for supporting us and the game. And then we'll wrap up just what's going on around the web is the Virtual 9 news.
You said that so nonchalantly. We'll wrap up.
We'll wrap up around the web, not the show.
We're revealing 2 new superstars. This is an exciting segment.
Guess what, Scott?
What?
We have the last 2 superstars for Virtual 9.
Who are they? Well, tell us who's in the set.
Okay, so the set's a mix of 2 sets they were working on. One was based around the first NXT Arrival pay-per-view event.
Yep.
So that gives us everyone that was on that card is either already in the game or they're coming into the game, except CJ Parker. I don't know if you watch New Japan much, but he is, I can't even think of his name. He's popular on there.
Whoa.
But he's not in this game. So we have American Alpha, the Vaudevillains, Mojo Rawley, The Ascension, Emma, Tyler Breeze, Adrian Neville, and Bo Dallas. So they're all going to be in the game.
All right.
Already previously announced. And coming new to the set is Finn Balor, Shinsuke Nakamura, Asuka, Alexa Bliss, who have already been announced. Nice. And the last 2 names are Baron Corbin and Samoa Joe.
Woo!
2 really good names to wrap it up.
And yeah, the last 6 are super active, super popular superstars, so I can see them getting lots of play going forward.
Hey, Bo Dallas is really active right now.
He has a title shot at the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So there we go. It's a set of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14 new superstars plus existing superstar support. I think we're getting some non-superstar specific cards as well.
Nice.
It's going to be a big set, and I think we're getting reveals starting Gen Con, which is August 2nd to 5th.
Yeah, and there's a thread on TCO if you're heading to Gen Con, just like a general meetup thread and what's everyone doing. I think someone just posted the rules basically for the Gen Con, bring a deck list, bring a printed deck list, try not to make too many modifications beforehand because they'll check them, things like that.
What I think we should do next episode is kind of do like a Gen Con primer for people who haven't gone. I know you have a good friend that goes almost every year, so maybe we can ask him. It's like, what's Gen Con like? Are the lines really 3 hours long?
Yeah.
I know I'm a big Comic-Con fan, so bring lots of granola bars and water.
Yeah, that's what I did for FunCon. It wasn't quite the lineups, but it was nice. I think it was Mitch mentioned it was just nice not having to fight the lineups. And lunch, there was maybe 2 people ahead of you on our lunch break for a slice of pizza. We're like, yeah.
So you want to get into what we're gonna. There's a lot of newer players coming to virtual, returning to the game. So the idea we want to introduce over the next, handful of episodes or however long it takes is just visit a portion of the virtual sets or what virtual has to offer and kind of give a brief explanation. It's not as bad as it looks, kind of thing, and kind of like a virtual primer. So what are we visiting today, Scott?
Today we are visiting the first thing that any passerby sees when they look down at an active raw deal game. That's the backstage area. Usually purple cards sprawled all over the place. Some play them, some don't. Shenanigans. Basically, they are rules for the game. Essentially, that's what we classify them as. Otherwise, they have no real effect on the game. So I can see players walking up saying, oh, look at all these cards with 15 lines of text on them. I'm automatically losing interest. And we're like, really? They're just like alterations or to current cards or rules of the game that everyone knows and follows. That's why some people play them, some people don't, because if you don't play them, it's just, I gotta dig them out of the battle bag if you really want to read them or reference them. But for the most part, they stay the same. We all know what they do. Yeah. So,
let's look at a card like Enough Shenanigans. It blanks a lot of negative cards from the classic versions. So, the following cards are blank: Calling You Out, the Stipulation Inferno match. It's all about the game. The non-throwback version of Premier WWF Superstar / WWE Superstar, because they didn't update that to be overturned. You just take the number of cards from your deck and put into your ringside. Run the Gauntlet was a big issue with Enforcers. You just keep cutting the deck and overturning cards. And then specifics like Yo Kill the Beat, which is pretty much you can't play any pre-match cards, and Piper's Pit. And Revolution Judgment Day. I'm not familiar with that one though. So that's an example of what these Backstage Area cards, the Shenanigans line of Backstage Area cards, it's just they're erratas rather than referring to a rules page. You just reveal these with your deck. You can just leave them in a stack somewhere, because when you're familiar enough with virtual, you're going to realize that you don't need to read these every time, because everyone's building their decks around all of these effects. They also modify playability, so like who's cooler than Michelle McCool? I mean, when there's a deck that can play 6 of them, that's a real headache. So now you're limited to playing 3. Skirt the issue. You can't play if you have
D1.
D1 or greater or pre-match cards.
Bash cards, they have to be bash.
So like a bat, okay, so D1 plus bash, so like a bash diva is really good because she's getting those 3 reversals from mid-match.
Right away.
Anything really stand out for you that was like a big change?
What a big change was when they initially came out with the Shenanigans cards, they had drawbacks. Like, they took up space in your Backstage Area card for cards like Backstage Shenanigans. Some of them had a -1 hand size, so people wouldn't reveal them in certain scenarios because they didn't want the 1 card hand size unless they thought their opponent was playing It's All About the Game. So that was interesting when they first came out, but now they kind of axed that and said, listen, these are just pretty well all in play. They have no real outside effect on the game. They're all RMS. They can't be blanked. They are what they are. I was thinking on the way over, it'd be neat if they somehow had like the cards look great themselves, but like a printout or something that just had these rules listed on them. That's kind of like on a playmat or something, or like I don't know where I'm going with this, but I know like in Pokemon they have like a token because there's a special type of Pokemon attack, and like when you use it, you flip it over. So it's just like an extra piece to the game. Some people may not want to carry around extra parts to lay out, so the cards are their thing. But like I don't know, something that's just there, right, all the time that you can reference. But then again, they change it. You have to update whatever this piece of thing is. Yeah, so scrap that idea. But it was just something that popped in my head on the way over.
Yeah, but even this, like, you don't have to sprawl them all out like you've seen videos online, or you walk past, you know, you're meeting up with an old friend that is playing the game, and you see, what is it, 7 of these, 3 back signature cards.
Yeah, 2 anniversaries. And that's not counting specifics, which most have 2 of.
So you're looking at 14 Backstage Area cards, and that's intimidating. That really ruins the idea of wanting to get into virtual. But it's not as bad as it looks. It's better for the game. It changes. This is kind of like the foundation of what virtual is.
Yes,
where you see this, it's like, okay, I can do these now. I don't have to worry about these negative effects.
Exactly.
Like what else? Like Andre the Giant. Like they
watered down Andre, Piper, and Kennedy, who were the big 3, and Eugene. JBL took a little bit of a hit, but they give them other things to do as well, right? It's not just like the Superchar's way too good, we're gonna axe them. No, they're like, okay, we're gonna blank his ability, but give him some other good support cards.
I think another good example is all players' straight shooting interview cards are active and not considered to have shoot in the title for their card effects. So if you want to play shoot counter, you have to have a different card with shoot in the title, so you can't do that bash straight shooting interview in the shoot counter.
You have to earn it a little bit.
It's good. Don't have this have a negative impact on wanting to approach virtual. It's just one of those necessities in.
Yeah, it's the easiest way to make the game player friendly.
And you don't always have to refer to, oh, please visit this FAQ to see what cards are.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like you just sleeve them, include them in your deck. Just don't expect to use one of those original Radial deck tins because
they don't fit.
It just won't fit. And then with the Backstage Area as well, they've added a lot of non-specific cards, like dynamically inclined, where before you draw your hand, you search your deck for 10 dynamic maneuvers, draw your hand, put one of the dynamic maneuvers into your hand, and then shuffle the remaining back into your arsenal. So you're not drawing into all these unnecessary hybrid maneuvers. They added a 10th year anniversary that works alongside the 5th year anniversary. They have a new signature card that increases your hand size rather than affecting super.
Both players hand size.
Yeah, both players play hand size. So both you and your opponent are playing. It's +2 hand size, and it could have strategic elements to it where you want to increase their hand size, so you could put overrated superstar into play, which is a mid-match action, 0 for 1. If they have 13 or more cards in their hand, they randomly discard 3 of them. And like, so there are other card effects. Well, I mean, we'll visit that when we talk about mid-match, but there are a lot of, the buzzers go.
And that's the show, guys.
Damn, we're out of time. It's just there are a lot of elements that make the game more accessible, but at the same time there are some elements that could look frustrating or be frustrating when you're getting into it. But that's anything when a game adds new elements or kind of getting into a new game with what this is, because it's a more aggressive game. It's easier to get fortitude. I mean, you say that to anyone. We're like, well, there's this one game I played, I got 0 fortitude. It's like, no, but I mean, you can build your deck where it's like, yeah, I'm getting a guaranteed 3 or 5 fortitude, and then you work from there.
I mean, any heal deck should get Dirty Low Blow and Douchebag somehow in play.
The new Dirty Low Blow is great. I mean, it's a min-match unique maneuver. When you're lower, it can only be reversed from Arsenal. Like, that's so good. Like, it's not getting hit by, like,
anything.
It's great to be back here.
I don't think anything reverses it.
No.
It could be wrong, but I don't think anything hits it.
Oh.
So yeah, there's that. And then Douchebag. Enough people play Chain and can only be reversed. You're more than likely to spin it at some point, and then it goes in your ring. So there's 4 fortitude for you.
So do you have anything else to add on this?
There are probably close to a dozen like non-superstar specific shenanigan cards. You touched on, I forget which, Dynamically Inclined. There's the Revolutionizing the Women's Division, Pulled Enough Strings to Get My Match, which is like if you have a really important stipulation you want to put in play, you can reveal that one. It has a few drawbacks. I believe you can't play venues or managers. The other specifics are kind of like, does my deck need this, or do I really want to stop this, right? Don't Be That Guy is a card that doesn't allow your opponent to pin you with, like, wins the game text on cards, right? But at a cost of giving up other non-specific Backstage Area cards. So. And
there's Hometown Hero, that where if your opponent has a venue, you get to play a venue, right? Taking a -2 card hand size. Yeah. So it's a lot less disruption now. It's more options where it's like, I'm building my deck like this, and I'm going to be able to play my deck like this.
Yeah, so look out for those non-specific ones, because a few of them do have really great bonuses if your deck really wants those cards in play at a little bit of a cost. Yeah. I don't really play them much. Usually I just reveal a 10th anniversary to get, so I don't get backstage shenanigan into skipping my first turn. But if I play old school wrestling match, which I do usually, and have one of my 6 decks of old school wrestling match, I just reveal everything because turns can't be skipped, so I have no fear of running into that. So. Yeah, I think that's it for Backstage Area for me. Don't get overwhelmed. Within time, you will learn them all and learn that they really have the same impact on every game of audio play.
And we're finding in our play area too, like there was not so much a divide, but like you had players that didn't really see tournament success in Classic. Now with Virtual, it's new for everyone. Pretty much any superstar is a good option with the specific support they've received over the last 8-9 years of how long Virtual's been in. Like we've had Road Dogg win 2 events, and it was with a player who prior to that had never won a Raw Deal event in the 13 years of them playing. And it's Virtual's great. And it's with newer superstars, but I mean we'll visit that later on. But it's like if he's on TV now or she's on TV now, or they as a tag team or a stable of people were on TV, you're probably going to find them, except the oddities.
Yeah, we're never
going to see the oddities. So what we have next is our interview with Buddha Dudley from Team Canada Online. You know him as Drew. You know him as, well, I do the introduction with the interview anyways. So let's cut to the interview. Hey everyone. I am here with two-time world champion, tournament organizer since the beginning of Virtual for the World Championships. Everyone knows him as Buddha Dudley, but some know him as Drew. How are you doing today, Drew?
I'm doing all right. It's nice. It's sunny California. No real complaints. It's just, another day in paradise. How you doing over there?
I'm good. We just came off of our first travel to the United States for a tournament ourselves, and it was a lot of fun meeting various people, including the current world champion, Mitch. But let's get into some Raw Deal talk. Well, we're already in the Raw Deal talk. What got you into the game? What was kind of your first set, and what kind of introduced you to it?
First set is, I can't say I was part of Premiere, but I was part of Fully Loaded. My friend Albert Rubio, who is well known in Southern California circles, and he was one of the Southern California qualifier winners the year that I believe, I think it was the year Rumi won. Albert Rubio, he's like one of my best oldest friends, and he got me into the game. He's like, hey, we watched wrestling for as long as I can remember. Here's like a starter deck. It's Triple H. I know you love him. Let's try this out. And ever since then, I was hooked. Luckily, there were tournaments in the area between Burbank, Chatsworth, all around. It was not really big much else in California, but luckily SoCal, there was it was a pretty decent tournament scene. Every tournament had at least anywhere from 12 to 16 people. And ever since then, that's all I've played for the longest time. I played that for pretty much until the wheels fell off, and then back a year later, my friends got me back in the game and said, hey, Virtual is coming back. I'm like, what is this? And got me back into it. And luckily, Tony Vella, and as a manager extraordinaire at the time, wasn't well known, but he just wanted to have the game continue. And from there on, it just kept growing in California still. And Creed came down here as well, and I've been playing ever since.
Well, I remember from my early days of visiting TCAN Online, SoCal Raw Deal was one of those kind of staple groups and play groups that would come up with a lot of new competitive ideas. So have you always been more of like a competitive player, or did you kind of start off casually?
We started really casually. It was just more for fun. Albert got his brothers into it, and I was his best friend. All we did was play and just pretty much dominate our conversations, to the point where it became like the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours. You just spend enough time on something, you start recognizing people who have spent that much time, and you can name a card and they know exactly what it does and why it's so good in a certain person. And those are the people you kind of gravitate to when you start, really just delving into things as deep as we have. It's like when you meet people like Mitch, or you meet people like Steve Resk, or you meet people like Scott, who just they put in the 10,000 hours. Albert and I put in just times. We spitball, we come up with an idea. All right, let's put it together. Let's see what happens, and then we play it, and then we go, whatever. And we did it constantly, over and over again. And this was way back in Mania, and back in Backlash, where we didn't really go online much to check on like Meta. We just wanted to come up with our own stuff and see how it got. And luckily, there was, like I said, that tournament scene that made us want to get better. And it was just a competitive drive to where, let's just see where this goes. I mean, I've always been competitive in that sense, but I never really thought that gaming would be my thing, and it just became something I really just enjoyed. And Audio luckily took that itch.
Did you play any card games prior to Audio?
I mean, as a kid, I think some classmates dabbled in Magic a bit. I tried it. It just didn't seem like as interesting to me as I thought it would be. I played a little bit, but by a little bit, I played like 2 or 3 sets with friends, and then I said, please take these cards away from me. It's not as interesting as I thought it would. And Raw Deal just came along, and it just was like, hey, because literally in my life, if anyone who knew me was to say, hey, what is one thing that Drew was really passionate about? It's wrestling. I loved wrestling as a kid, and it just kind of gravitated from there into like, oh, this is an actually fun game to actually simulate a wrestling match in card form. It's short. It's not so bad, at least when it came out. Because remember when we started playing, there was no Backlash deck, so it was actually a much more interesting, like 10, 15-minute game, kind of like how Revolution, is now. So, I mean, I enjoyed it, and I never stopped to that sense. And competitive-wise, it really just scratched that itch.
So how were your performances in the qualifiers with the pre-virtual, so just with the comic images for these cards?
At the time, I didn't take it as seriously, so I literally just would go with whatever made me happy. I think I won one tournament of note at SoCal, like we had Best in the West, with like the only deck I ever took seriously, which was Birds of Destruction. After that, I literally took decks that made me smile, like a Premier Raw table Dudley deck that really had no business being in a tournament, but since it was a big tournament in like Gen Con, I was like, hey, that's fun. Let's just play that. If I could win, like even go 4-2, that would just make my day. Because I had no real, I don't really care to, be as powerful as I was. So, sorry. I didn't care to, bring a powerful deck I just wanted to bring decks that were more fun to me back at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little evolved past that, but in the end, I still try to bring things that are more fun unless I'm lazy. Then I'll just play whatever is someone hands me or play whatever I think is more interesting.
And how about your performances in the virtual? You're two-time virtual champion. Do you find that when you got into those, you're like, okay, this is something I could really sink my teeth into?
It partly was that. It was partly also that I just got more into it again. I just started playing again with like Albert and a bunch of friends. We just kept playing decks. I think the deck that a lot of people around here would associate me with was Molina's. I never heard Molina being a good deck, and then I just looked at it and I was like, these cards are really, really good together. And I just kept playing it and playing it. I think to the point right before I brought to the World Championships, people in the circles that I ran with were like, "Oh, not that deck again. That deck's really, really broken." And I said, "Yeah, it really kind of is." And the funny thing is, I brought it, and then of course it kind of shit the bed at World Championships, but because in the Swiss, it ran against like its worst matchup in the Road Warriors, who has like 2 ace reversals in the backlash, which is the only thing that really stops Molina. But in virtual, I got really kind of competitive in terms that like, oh, my friends are doing really well. That means we can all do really well. And in fact, I can bring things that are fun. Like the Molina deck was literally meant for fun, and then it just turned into something else entirely. But I mean, the second virtual World Championship, honestly, I kind of didn't take it as seriously. I just put decks together that I was like, oh, that's a good idea, or that's a great one. I'm just going to put it together and see what works well. It wasn't as satisfying as the first, but it was still, at that point, you just want to go like, I want to prove that I can do it twice. Mm-hmm. And then I did. It was just partly luck, partly that it was good. It was my day on the second time around. First time around, I think it was just, I had really good matchups as well. And sometimes it all just works out. Competitive-wise, I definitely did step it up during virtual just because I thought it was much more interesting and there was just a lot more options because you could play anything and it was just actually had a shot, whereas pre-virtual, especially at the right before Revolution, you kind of realized there really, or even as the World Champions of Revolution, you saw the meta was very like, it's this or nothing else. It was like that whole triumvirate, and you were stuck either with Piper or Andre or Kennedy, and that was kind of it. And now in virtual, you could play anything, which made it much more interesting, at least to me and a lot of people in SoCal.
And that's what we had a hard time, our play group, getting into virtual because we didn't see that. Like, we saw the shift of where there's a lot of multis now. There's cards that cannot be responded to, but you don't have that realization looking at it where everyone is kind of on an equal playing ground now. And,
I agree.
And then that's what we're trying to tell new people coming in. It's like, yeah, this game's still being made. It's a little overwhelming at first, but pick your superstar you want to use, and you're going to have a good time with them against other people. That's
the main thing that we were able to get even new players to jump in, because we told them before it was the Wild West. It was just really bad in terms of what could and couldn't be viable. Like, you could play anything you wanted pre-virtual. It just, eventually if you wanted to get competitive, you're going to run into these unholy three, and you're just not going to get past them. Mm-hmm. And that's why a lot of them also in SoCal started gravitating toward Revolution, just because that's why the guys who jumped in Raw Deal late in SoCal just decided, hey, a lot of the guys don't really know play Revolution, so they just took over Revolution. And in fact, a lot of the Revolution ideas, like the Ric Flair that I used, is not my brainchild. It's Tony's. Mm. Tony Vella and Elsie. They just put it together and said, hey, this is really good. You should really try this in Rev. And I made like slight tweaks, but the entire, pretty much like 57 of the main deck cards are their brainchild. And I only changed like 3 of them because in Revolution it just made sense. But the game, I think in virtual is better in terms of what is and isn't viable. It's just it's really hard to get those new players in because they see 20 backstage cards, and it's really hard. That's why I really push to make it say, like, if you're playing virtual, just these are the rules that exist. I mean, you don't have to put them in backstage. Just say, hey, these cards are on the side. They don't really part of the game. These are rules that just have to know, hey, these are banned, these are this, as part of a game set. But I guess it's one way to do it, put it in the backstage to let people know, too. It's part of the machine. There's nothing you can really do about it, when you try to balance a game 10 years later.
And speaking of like what's a part of the machine now, I want to talk about your first World Championship card you made, Don't Be a Douchebag.
Okay.
That's a
Sure.
must-pack card in every deck now that I'm finding. We gradually went into virtual. We were 8 years behind, I believe. What was kind of your design philosophy behind that card?
The design philosophy was that at the time, the best way to get on board was really, it was turn up the heat, turn the tides, clutches, things along those nature. Originally, I also wanted poke and shake as well, but apparently that had to be dropped off, and that got pushed onto the second card.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the idea, and then at the same time, it also we didn't want it to ever be like, just keep shuffling and just stop it all the time. So that's why I wanted to make sure it just went in one-time use. But it didn't really think it would be as good as it ended up being. It actually ended up when you do the you put it on paper and then you have it through playtesting. You usually find some cards need to be toned down.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, they actually made it better through playtesting, which was really interesting. I think it's one of the only ones where they were like, let's just make it like any non-unique with a reversal restriction, which was never anything I wrote down. It was literally like a bunch of words that ended up being way better than I thought it would ever end up being. And I don't really know about where I thought it was going. I just wanted it to stop like really BS maneuvers like Germans and atomics and precision haymakers from zero, because sometimes when you're at zero, you kind of stuck doing nothing. At least you have some fortune you can do something.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the whole impetus, and it just kind of ballooned from there to be able to stop. Okay, I want to stop a clutch, and it ended up just being way more than I thought it ever would be.
Is now like with Arsenal construction, that's the first card in every deck. Like I build,
Oh, yeah.
I know a lot of people like Revolution of the Minds, one of that. Okay, now who am I building?
Exactly.
And go ahead.
No, it's just one of those. I didn't think about it at the time. I just wanted to stop like those cards, and in the end, the 0-4 to the stop those cards is really stinky good to the point where I'm really glad it's done something into the game. It's not a bad thing, and it's just one of those. Everyone needs a way to stop those and maybe just get on the board, and that was literally the only reason of its existence. That was my impetus, at least.
Recently, I was able to get it on overturn from a King's Board of Hellfire. So I'm starting off with that 2 fortitude right away, which worked out really nice.
It's really nice too, like to be able to stop pretty much any douchebaggery things, which is kind of what the whole point is. Like, don't be an ass. Like, just let me get on the board and let me play this game. I'm glad that like other people have really decided to like it as much as they did. I didn't really think about that in terms of when designing it, but hey, I'm glad people like it.
And with your second card, 2x2x, we in our play group recently discovered the power of how strong flipping your opponent's cards are.
Yes.
So you want to talk about that card because it does a whole bunch of crazy things.
This one was one of those ones that in playtesting we ended up toning down because I ended up wanting it to do way too much. I figured at 22 fortitude, I mean, it can do a lot. Right? I can choose whatever I want it to do. And I just wanted to do 2 of everything just because, first 2 times, I might as well just really rub it in. But I couldn't think of anything good other than turning cards over was the one thing that I could probably sneak in, and because that was right when we were started to do that mechanic. And then you realize just how good that is. Because I think a lot of people, John especially, Mr. People's team, he thought it read as turn up, not turn over.
Mm-hmm.
So he thought, oh, well, turn up, who cares? Like he thought it meant turning something that was flipped over back up, not just turn them over. So it was one of those cards that, if you really think about it, there's actually a lot of power in that card. Then Stop Poke and Shake is just a plus. I wanted it to do all of the effects if it ever reversed Poke and Shake too, but they removed that, which I thought would have been hilarious. But they reworded it so that it just, as a reversal, that was it. But I wanted to do all the effects whenever you played it, including play as a reversal. Like, you got to choose, like, some of them. I wanted to choose, like, 5 of, like, 10 effects. It was something really stupid. So, of course, they had to be turned down. But I wanted to have a lot more effects if you ever reverse Poke and Shake, just to really rub those in. But that got shot down immediately, and they said, no, you can't have that, which that was probably a smart thing to do.
Like, my favorite use of that card recently has been flipping over legend opponents through all these years. Because you can find that in a combination with WrestleMania. Well, it's like, okay, well, now you only get that WrestleMania for the recursion. But now we're seeing a surgence in people turning the match upside down. So you're finding these little niche cards, and then everyone has to change their play style accordingly, and it freshens things up. That's a big thing with the virtual sets, where we're getting those new releases, or we're discovering little things, because there's, I think, over 300 superstars in the game now, where it could take one event and it shifts everything around, and people need to adjust their deck building because of that.
Yeah, right before they nerfed Paul Heyman, I remember turning everything upside down as like made it to get Heyman's last like foreign object through, because I think I remember what was it that like if played as a action, I believe it was an action. Sorry, it's been a bit, where you could actually look at the top three and then put them face down maneuvers, right?
I'm not familiar with it.
And then, like, you could just turn them up on your turn. Just go, oh look, there it is. There's my six foreign object. Congratulations to me. I did it. As like a really cheap way of getting the last win in case, because if you ever played foreign object Hayden before he got nerfed in the last virtual patch, sometimes you get stuck on 4 and 5. You just can't push through because for whatever reason. But it's little cards that just like that can change this game, and that's what makes it still fun. Virtual. To be fair, though, I haven't played as much recently with a lot of things going on. So I guess that was also part of my reasoning of, not going to Gen Con. But these things happen. Life happens. Maybe I'll come back next year. We'll see.
And being a part of development of the game, are there any other cards that you kind of had your hands in that you're proud of seeing it released? Or even any superstars?
Certain superstars. Oh, gosh, I wish you had asked me this before the call, because I'd have thought of some. Off the top, I'm not really good at coming things off the cuff. Let me think. I guess I'm really happy with some of the nerfs that have happened. Mm-hmm. I guess because of things I've fought for or not fought for. I guess I really shouldn't talk about anything too much in terms of what's about specifics. But in the end, I guess I should say, I should just end with, I'm really happy with where I've done and what I've helped with in terms of virtual. Nothing really comes to mind in terms of what superstars I've built, other than maybe some verbiage and just some playtesting. But nothing really specific in terms of like creating certain superstars, I guess is the correct answer to that question.
All right. Thanks, Drew, for that interview. That was part 1, right?
Yes.
We'll have a little 2-part series with him.
We'll have the next part in the next episode, because it's the week right before Gen Con, so we talk about his experiences being a tournament organizer for those World Championship events.
Cool. And for us Canadians who aren't making it to Gen Con this year, just like last year, we're going to do a little store championship that kind of lines up at the same time as Gen Con, so we can get our competitive play in. Hopefully it's well received. We had a good time playing a little bit competitively at FunkCon, so hopefully those that don't make it we can get them up to speed with their decks and everything and have a good time playing some raw deal. We'll get some prizes drawn up for that. A new champ is here.
Yeah, the foil cards through the MakePlayingCards.com site that Brandon had made, because that was our first time seeing them. No, you have the Devil's Favorite Demon you ordered.
Yeah. They
look really good, so sorry Keith, but I'm probably going to order through that.
Cards, yeah. Alrighty. Cool. So that'll wrap it up for this week, episode 21 of the Backlash podcast. I'm Scott.
Oh, I'm Eric.
Yes, he is Eric. All day, every day. See you later.